Welcome to Rhythm, a podcast on being in balance through conversations with the Swami. Namaste everybody. Today we are here with Swami Tadananda from the Ramakrishna Vedanta Centre here in Auckland. How are you, Swamiji?
I'm good. Thank you, Sunil.
It's good. Today we are trying to explore the topic well-being. Now, well-being is quite a popular topic. It's been talked about many times in the news, in the media, and even at schools, at different institutions, and so on. So we thought we'll have a view of well-being from a different angle. We've invited Swamiji here to give us his views. Swamiji, well-being. How does Vedanta see well-being?
Sunil, in Hindi, when we meet somebody and we want to inquire about their well-being, we use this well-known phrase, "Aapka swasth kaisa hai?" And generally, the person who is asking the question means the physical health of the person, maybe sometimes the general mental health also. But the meaning of the word swasth itself is loaded with a spiritual meaning. The word swasth can be broken into swa, stha. Swa means your own, and stha means to be established in. Your own self is swa, and stha means thapana, sthita. So the question that is being asked is not a very superficial physical question. In a spiritual sense, the inquirer is asking, are you established in your own spiritual self? Now, why would they ask that type of question? Because in the Vedanta tradition, in the Vedantic perspective, the true well-being is grounded in our spiritual reality of who we are. We have heard this expression, we are spiritual beings having a human experience. So fundamentally, we are spiritual beings. Yeah. And good health, physically, mentally, emotionally, morally, spiritually, are all tied to that foundation. If the foundation is not good, if you're not anchored on something, if you're not balanced, then we are sort of unsettled, and that there's a loss of balance. We are not at ease, and that's why we call it dis-ease. It's all about getting back into that rhythm, that balance, where we are poised in a way that the world cannot knock us off, type of thing. So we say in our Vedanta tradition, the true cause of well-being would be approaching that spiritual self that we are, and the more we come to the center of our being, the less we are likely to be unsettled by anything that can affect us from outside.
Right. Wow. Okay. Now that is quite deep. So I suppose today's session we would like to cover some of that because it's a pretty big topic. So we'll probably won't get to the whole of that today, but we'll try and cover a few elements of it. How would we start this? So obviously you mentioned physical well-being, you mentioned mental well-being, emotional well-being. What's the best way to tackle this?
So the first step would be to enlighten ourselves as to what we really are. Normally when we talk about ourselves, we mean our physical and mental, our personality and individuality and all those things. So first we have to expand our perspective of who we are in the light of Vedanta, which is, Vedanta is the final conclusion of the saints and sages who dive deep into their own inner self and explored that inner space, and they came face to face as a realization with a wonderful dimension of their own being, which is called the self or the Atman or the soul. And they said, this entity that is there within all of us, the ocean behind all the waves, it is of infinite existence, knowledge, bliss, peace, purity, sublimity, everything that we want in our life, but it's within us. So starting from that dimension, the spiritual dimension, on top of that, we can visualize just like an onion has been covered with multiple layers, so that a spiritual self has been covered, so to say, by these layers which are in Vedanta called the koshas, the sheaths. And starting from the deepest level of our being, which is the spiritual self, which is full of bliss, and then it comes down, you think of another layer which is full of knowledge, then that is covered by what is called the mind, and then that next layer is covered by another, that mind is covered by another layer which is called the vital sheath, the where the energy is flowing through. And finally, this physical gross body comes. Okay. And so the spiritual dimension is the source, the powerhouse, which is radiating that energy. And how much of that energy is able to penetrate through those inner layers and come to the physical level. That inner nourishment of that energy is the Vedanta approach of true well-being.
Right. Okay. So how do people then improve themselves internally, and in a way that then also improves the other layers?
So then the question can be reframed as, how do we access that wonderful powerhouse that is within us to strengthen us, to make us more resilient, to make us so strong that the outside world, which is always trying to jump onto us and drag us off our balance, that our inner balance and poise and strength is so much that the outside world cannot disturb us.
That's right.
And if we are able to maintain that balance in all situations, then we say, I'm healthy at all times. Otherwise, something knocks us off, and for a while, we are off ease. So what we need is strength. And we have understood that the source of that strength is from within. But there's a method by which we enhance our strength.
Yes.
So at a physical level, let's start with something that we all know. If you decide to see somebody who is very strong and muscular and everything, because you ask him, how do you do it? Became so strong. I also seem to have those muscles, but none of them are showing. And he would say, hey, there's a system, a method of doing it. And he would say, most of us know, many of us go to the gymnasium. So you need to go and give yourself that exercise.
Yes.
Okay. And so there in a gymnasium, various devices and machines are there meant for particular muscles and systems. And there's somebody who knows about how those machines start to be utilized. So you go and set up a program, and which could be twice a week. You go for an hour or so. So you'll do those exercises. Exercise means doing something repeatedly. So you are giving a signal to your body when you're lifting a 5 kg dumbbell that this is a task for me. The body does not know whether you're in a gymnasium or actually in the outer actual field.
Yeah.
He says, this person needs strength.
Yes.
And so when you repeatedly, gravity is pulling the weight down, you are going against it. Okay? And you are lifting it against it. So exercise comes by not going with nature, but against the flow of nature, against gravity. Right. All right. So we do that exercise and we push it to the little limit. We just don't do it 2 kgs, We try to give the signal that I need more. So a little bit of stress is there, but not too much that it can hurt you.
Yes.
Also. So that common sense, practical sense is
so there's some sort of structure.
Some structure is there.
How do you slowly increase that weight?
Yes.
You start off with low heavy weights, but then if you over time increase it.
Yeah. And the body will respond.
Yes.
Okay. So he says this man needs more muscles. And so it responds by developing those muscle fibers. But then you know also that, hey, look, it's not just exercises. If you don't eat good food, protein and all those type of things that's necessary to develop those muscles, then you might just become weaker even. So along with exercise should come good nourishment.
Yeah.
Okay. And then suppose you overdo the exercises, overeat the food, and you don't get the muscles immediately. So there's something we know common sense that you have to be patient. You have to do it in a step-by-step way over a long period of time for that muscle to gradually develop. And after some time, you begin to see your biceps and triceps and all those things are coming.
Yeah.
So we have a little formula there. The net result after 3 months is you feel stronger.
Yes.
And that is your yardstick by which you say, my going to the gym is good. I feel that strength in everything. So the outcome that we want is strength.
Yes.
And that is the output. The input is exercises in a systematic way, plus good nourishment, food, plus a program, time, patience that has to be there.
Correct.
So when you put all these 3 together, you feel the physical strength.
Yes. Correct.
So that makes common sense.
Yes.
Most of us are familiar with it. Nice. Let's take it to the intellectual level.
Yeah.
So
as we are going through the layers. So we've started from the outer layer. Physical.
We'll jump the what do you call this? The second layer, which is the vital force.
Yes.
That sort of comes with the physical body. Okay.
Yeah. Be healthy and all that. Yes.
Then comes the intellectual part of it. So when our parents and the society wants us to be very useful as we grow up, they say we'll capture all the knowledge that our ancestors have collected over centuries, and this is what is called now captured in books, and there are trained people who are there to offer that, which are our teachers. And it's a system also, which is the education system, that you just don't go into class 5 or class 10. You have to start with the primary and go through the grades, and to keep on develop as you develop your capacity.
Yeah.
Then you qualify to the next level.
Right.
Just like in the gym, you start with 5 kg, then you go to 7 and 10 like that.
Exercise books.
Exercise books are there. and then also there is this things called exercises at the end of the chapters in a textbook. So in that equation, for intellectual strength, which would mean a problem is thrown at you, you don't get overwhelmed and bamboozled by it. You said, and I have been educated. Give me some time and I will find a way to solve it. So how did it happen? Because just like you develop the physical muscles, here you are developing what they call the mental muscles, the intellectual muscles. What is the method? Well, you're doing the exercises. So a teacher gives you subject matter, you read, and then you come and solve so many problems, 10, 20 of them, and then in the exercise book, and you check the answers, and after some time you get the confidence, I can do this. Okay, so that is the exercise part of it, physically doing that. If you don't do that, you will not get that exercise.
Yeah.
Okay, and the food, intellectual food, is the knowledge.
It's the knowledge
that is coming from.
It's in the books.
In the books and the teachers. Actually, from our Vedanta said the knowledge is within us.
Yeah.
The books and the teachers facilitate the manifestation of that knowledge.
Right.
Always we have to say the source is within us, not outside. Then we become dependent on outside sources. Outside things, facilities are facilitators. They give the catalyst, and something expresses itself from within. So again, we have got this, when you want to train somebody as an engineer or doctor or accountant, which is the mental capacity of that person has been developed. He goes through a course and through university, that is systematic study, discipline is necessary, all that, plus that the knowledge of that particular field, subject matter, plus a course of 5 years or some years is there. You just can't finish, everything in 1 year unless you're a genius or something like that. So
in the discipline, as you said, the
discipline is very important.
You're not out partying every day, you are, but in a way, everything's very controlled.
Yeah. So again, we can have the same formula: intellectual exercise plus intellectual ideas or knowledge is food for the mind, plus a disciplined training.
Correct.
Makes us a professional.
Yes.
And you do wonderful things in this world.
Yes.
Let's jump one or two.
Yeah.
The next ones will be emotional.
Yes.
And we'll jump over the moral and ethical also right now, and go to the spiritual discipline, the ones that are already well established in society. So
they might help inform the other two.
Yeah. So can we see the same formula applies to all of them also?
Right.
And then we'll try to find out the formula for this other two. Okay. So when somebody becomes spiritually inclined and interested, he's read the scriptures, so he's been asking these questions like, who am I? Where did I come from? Where am I going? What's the meaning and purpose of life? The scriptures say that I'm a spiritual being, I'm infinite existence, knowledge, bliss, but I'm not feeling it that way. I want to experience that myself.
Yeah.
So, and then somebody approaches some spiritual teacher who is versed in that knowledge, and he says, I'm ready to submit myself to the discipline, to that exercise. That is called sadhana.
Yes.
And the spiritual teacher says, okay, you'll have to do this much japa and meditation and various other subsidiary disciplines are there, so that the energy is not frittered away but it's harnessed, and then you, through the spiritual disciplines, sublimate it into some spiritual energy, so to say. So there is exercises, spiritual exercises, that is japa, meditation, and various other yama, niyama, and all those things are there. Then what is the food for spiritual exercise? Well, the knowledge that has been harnessed or collected by people who have walked that path and recorded that. Yes. And these are what our scriptures are, Gita, Upanishad and all that. Somebody has discovered a path and made a map and given us a compass and said, hey, follow this and you will reach this goal. So that's useful to us. Otherwise, we are finding our own way. So we have that knowledge, spiritual knowledge. And of course, nothing happens overnight. Okay, you can't just simply say that I've been meditating for 1 year and nothing happening, so it doesn't work. Patience and perseverance. The higher the goal, the longer the exercise can be. But We have that same equation here. What are they? First is the exercise, spiritual disciplines, morning and evening. You're practicing regularly, sincerely, with great zeal and passion. You are keeping and studying the scriptures to make sure that you're doing it rightly. And of course, patience is there.
Yeah.
And at the end, one fine day, you find that your spiritual strength is increasing, your sense of balance, your clarity about who you are, your poise. And
how would one realize, or as you say, how would one sort of go, oh, there's a lift in oneself, right? That there are, what are some of the signs or signals?
So this spiritual dimension is, let us say, it's a center of our being. Visualize a bicycle wheel that is spinning. There's so many spokes which are like the radii. The further you are away from the center, suppose there's an end sitting on the tire.
Yeah, the tire.
When the tire spins, it's really getting, dizzy because the velocity there is very high. The further you go away from the wheel, the center, the more the velocity is there. But as the end begins to crawl towards the center along one of those spokes of the bicycle, then it finds that the wheel is spinning in the same way. But the velocity it is experiencing is becoming less and less and less. And the closer it comes to the center, it becomes less. Ultimately, when it reaches the center, it finds that the wheel is spinning totally, but it is not spinning.
Yeah, it is quite stable.
Stable.
Yeah.
Swastha. I am established in my true self.
Yes.
So the yardstick or the measuring tape by which we will gauge how we are progressing in this spiritual journey is how grounded we are, how quickly we regain the balance if it's lost.
So when things happen in your life.
Yeah. You might get knocked a little bit, but then next moment you're back.
Yeah.
Okay. That balance, that poise, that equilibrium, that capacity to restore that balance quickly in your life is a good measure of your spiritual progress. That means you are more healthier that way. Okay. So this 5 layers, the 5 levels of our personality.
Yes.
That cover the wonderful beauty and purity and glory of the Atman. We have discussed, that's our subjective self. But the world outside, in terms of people, forces of nature, what's happening around the neighborhood, all those things, they're constantly trying to drag us out. Okay. So this constant battle between the outside forces and the internal forces is what is called life. Somebody asked Swami Vivekananda, what is life? He said, it's a constant battle between the forces. The external forces, centrifugal forces, the internal, centripetal, and who is winning. And if you are winning, you are able to maintain your poise and balance.
Yes.
But at sometimes the outside forces are too much and they drag us, and that's when we lose our footing. We can't do very much about the external world, but we can strengthen ourselves that the world cannot overpower us. That is the spiritual approach to well-being. The other 2 topics that are there.
So Swamiji, what we'll do is we'll actually finish this podcast because, as I said earlier, there's a lot to cover. This well-being is a great big topic, and you already have covered a lot of things today. I think what we'll do is get our listeners a chance to absorb and then reflect on what has been said today, which has been actually quite amazing. You've given us a lot to think about, especially how you've been able to relate all the, especially the physical and the intellectual back to spiritual. There's a structured way of understanding this. It's not just out of the books and then you go, oh wow, what is, how do I go about it? There's actually a method to all of this.
Yes.
And if people are able to take any small bit out of this, is just that, that if you are wanting to become more stable, wanting to have the strength and have the poise in life, and when things are thrown to them, they're able to regain the balance really quickly, then there's a method. If we can apply those things, then we can get there. So we conclude that today's session on that.
Yeah. And I think when we come back to the next session, we can give our listeners something to think about. Okay. So we have given them a formula about how physical strength, intellectual strength, and spiritual strength can be developed in a systematic way. we'll put the question out to them to think about what would be the way, or what's available to us to develop our emotional strength,
Yes.
which is very much important and the moral or ethical dimension. That's
Yes.
we'll use the same formula.
Which is the mental well-being part. Right?
Well, mental well-being will be intellectual, emotional, and all those things. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. But let's give our listeners something to think about. That formula that we have just talked about, which applies to the three, where and how that same method could be applied on the other two. We will discuss this, but in the meantime, let them think about it.
Awesome. That's great. Thank you, Swamiji. That was really, really wonderful. Pretty sure the listeners would have learned a lot today. Thank you for listening. Being in Balance, Rhythm. For more information, please visit www.vedanta.nz.